Okay, so in this video, we're going to start talking about some user management things. This is something that you'll need to be familiar with since you are literally the system administrator of your Linux install on your main computer at home. Most cases, you only have a user list of one, which is just be you, but all the concepts are just the same, whether you are doing one user, 100 users, 1 million users. In fact, if you get 1 million users on a single Linux system, send me an email because I want to see it. Anyway, but the point is it's all basically the same, whether you're using one user or many users. So let's go ahead and get started on user management. The first thing I want to do here is I want to introduce, I was going to do this actually as two different videos because there's a lot of commands we're going to cover here. But then I realized like the first 5 or 6 commands can be discussed in just 2 or 3 seconds or 5 seconds, 10 seconds each. So I'm like, no, I'm not going to make a video that's literally 2 minutes long and then make another one. So I just want to combine 2 lists into one. That's why there's going to be more than the normal commands. But anyway, I'm digressing. Let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to talk about is the ID command. Now, the ID command, you just simply type ID. It automatically assumes you're talking about yourself. And basically what it's going to do is it's going to show you your username here is going to be in parentheses when it talks about the UID, which is user ID. And then it's going to have your numerical value for that. The first user that is added to the list that is not a system user, and this happens during installation, if you remember, it asks you to give up a name, password, and stuff for the very first user, and that's going to be user 1000. And of course, these numbers I'm giving you are by default, and they do kind of vary a little bit between Linux distributions, but the concept is the same. Anything less than 1,000 is going to be system users or system groups. Anything above 1,000 is going to be actual regular normal users that log into your computer. With 1,000 being the first person, the one that was set up during installation. So user ID is 1,000 for this is the user ID. The group ID or GID is also 1,000, and this is a group here. Then there's groups 1,000, which is LTL. Okay, so my user ID is 1,000, my group ID is 1,000, and the groups I'm in ID is 1,000. Okay, I also have group number 4, which is ADM, 24, which is CD-ROM, 27, which is sudo, DIP. A lot of these are deprecated, or they're pretty much just system groups that we don't really have to worry about, like CD-ROM. I don't even have a CD-ROM on my computer, but if I did, this being in this group allows me to access the CD-ROM, that kind of thing. Same thing with Samba Share. LP admin just allows me to manage printers, that kind of thing. So I'm also in a users group called users. Okay, so there's the ID command. Clear the screen, and then the next one I want to talk about is who am I? And basically that just tells you who you are currently operating as. It's not necessarily who you're logged in as, it is who you're acting as. For example, if I were to do a sudo -i and hit enter, put in my password, it's actually going to drop me to a root shell. And basically the I does is it's kind of interactive. It creates an interactive shell, calls in all the environment variables and that kind of thing. And again, in a future video, we will cover all of sudo and what it is and how it works. But for now, let's just keep using it as we're demonstrating it here. And if I do who am I again, now I'm root. I'm not logged in as root. I logged in as LTL, but I switched to the root user using the sudo command. So now I am root. Okay, so the next one is groups, and basically what that does, I did that again, I did that in the last video. Groups is plural, and basically what I do is when I type groups, it lists all of those, it lists all those groups that was in the ID command. All right, so with those out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about user add. And of course you can do man on all of these commands, man ID, and so forth. Every command in the system has a man page associated with it. So user add and then you're going to do like attack M or dash M. That just tells the system and you want to create a user, but the dash M will create a home directory for that user in its default location as dictated by the system's configuration. In most Linux, that's in the home directory, so it'll be /home/ the username. And then you go ahead and enter. It says permission denied. So this is kind of encryptive here, but basically it just means I did it without using sudo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back up and then do sudo and put that in there, and now it's done. But what's Scott's password? That's another command. It's actually sudo password with just pass wd, and then the user, and then we can go ahead and give them the password real quick. And I do apologize for digressing a little bit here. It's very hard to figure out a path to talk about commands in a very linear fashion, because you'll find, if you haven't noticed already, that when we go through these commands, sometimes I need to access other commands like sudo, or in the last video I had to teach you about the word counter, WC command, because it becomes part of the demonstration for the command I was actually trying to show you. And the same thing is happening here as well. For me to show you the user add, you have to know sudo. Well, before you know sudo, I need to tell you what sudo is, kind of thing. So it kind of goes down its own little rabbit hole, and I do apologize for that. But it cannot be helped. All right, so now that the Scott user has been created, I can also use user del Scott to remove that user. However, when I do that, it's going to stop the user Scott from being able to log in, because it's going to delete the system portion of that. It's going to remove the password. It's going to remove the person out of Etsy password and Etsy shadow, which is another file we'll talk about in the advanced playlist. But it does not delete their home directory by default. And the reason why it does that is because you might want the files in that directory. Let's say you work for a company and you want to get rid of Bob from sales. He's no longer there. You can either lock his account out, or you can go ahead and delete him as a user, depending on what your company policy is. But /home/Bob is still going to be there as far as his home directory, so you can still access his files. All right. So back to something that's a little more relevant to your current system situation here. So we just added Scott, and then that could be a roommate, it could be a spouse or a child or whatever. So they have their own login to your computer. But then you want to be able to give them access to different groups. So in that case, we would use a command called user mod. Okay, and then I can append to their groups, and I can put them in the sudo group, so that Scott is also allowed to use the sudo command, and then the user that we're changing. Okay, for now, let's not go any deeper into the user mod than that. User mod can modify users infinitely, but for this particular scenario, that's all we're going to talk about, and that's all we're going to do actually in this video. It's less than 9 minutes, and I've covered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 commands pretty much. So anyway, I hope you like these videos. If you do, make sure you click subscribe, mash that notification bell, and if I went too fast in this video, I do apologize. It's just these commands are really that simple as far as the basics of them are concerned. Go back and rewatch it again, slow it down, pause, practice, whatever you need to do, and we'll see you next time.